situated. Okay, it says that I'm live. What's going on, family? It's your boy JT, the corporatepreneur, and I'm getting ready to set this up to go live tonight. I'm making sure we are good to go on Instagram, on YouTube. Shout out to you guys there. Most importantly, Facebook, and I'm going live because I made a post, was it yesterday or a couple days ago, just talking about like, man, we need to have real conversations around financial literacy, right? And I say that because being in the financial space, like over the past 4 years, in a multitude of capacities. I was licensed in financial services as a insurance agent, right? So I was selling various insurance products. Then transitioning and working in like credit coaching, okay, and then becoming a business credit and funding advisor, right? Getting a certification in that, and meeting with people and touching people, with regard to their finances and each of those scenarios and situations. And it was just a common denominator that, man, there were so many things that were missing or weren't right, whether it was from a budget or understanding basic financial principles of needs versus wants, or just money management in general, having credit that was in a good position or not, right? There were so many gaps that I saw, which is another reason why I'm in this space. I enjoy learning, I enjoy helping people, um, but there's just a great need for education and information to help people get to the next level. So, with that being said, I just kind of wanted to go live real quick, right, and just share a couple tips and things that I believe will be helpful to help people get a better handle on their finances. Now, some of this stuff I'm gonna share tonight, I'm not saying it's gonna set the world on fire. Okay, I'm not a financial advisor. All right, so this is just for educational purposes only and information based off of my own personal experiences and the experiences that I've had with clients, over the years. These are just some of the watch outs and things, some low hanging fruit that you could be doing better. Okay, that you can be diverting your attention to, so that way you can have a better financial situation. That way your money can go a little bit further. Okay. So one of the first things I kind of wanted to talk about right now uh, is debt. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about debt, managing debt, some of the strategies or different things that you can do to kind of help if you're struggling with a lot of debt right now, and some watch outs too that you should avoid or stay away from if you are dealing with a lot of debt. And there was this financial advisor, financial planner, a buddy of mine. I went to college with him, and I reached out to him when I started my journey in like financial services. And one of the things that he said is that he said that debt is it's a symptom of bad money management. All right. So he says that debt is a symptom of bad money management. And I was just thinking about that. And I just kind of paused for a minute. I was like, dang, like, why are, most folks in debt? Like, what have we done? What did we do? Or what is it that we don't know about finances and managing money that have led us to be in debt? Whether it was biting off more than we could chew with credit cards during holiday season and different things like that, whether it's a psychological thing, we've got these traumas and we feel like we need to show up for people in certain ways, and it causes us to overspend or put us in a bad spot, whether it's holiday season, birthdays, anniversaries, you name it. There is somewhat of a psychological component to that causes people to overspend to please or make others happy. And, a combination of all those things lead us into making bad financial decisions. And based on where the economy is right now, the way things are with inflation, banking, and these lending institutions, consumer debt, credit card debt is at an all time high. Interest rates are at an all time high. I've made videos before, and I told people that, hey, you know what? That credit card that you got when you first signed up, it might have been, 12, 13, 14% interest that you were paying, right? They gave you a range of what they could potentially charge you on interest, all the way up to 30%. If you look on your credit card statements right now, some of you guys are being charged 30% roughly, okay, or 28.9, 29% roughly on the balances that you are carrying on your credit card. So some people are wondering, like, well, dang, like, why can't I get out of this funk? Why isn't my dollar going as far? I'm making payments, and if you're making minimum payments, it really ain't doing nothing for you. with the interest rates being that high. So, everyone's kind of in a chokehold, right? So, um, a couple strategies that you can do to kind of loosen that up. So, first, I would say some credit card companies will give you a break on the interest rate if you call in and you ask them for a lower interest rate or a reduction, right? You can call in, you can say hardship, whatever the case may be. You have some companies that may be willing to work with you. Okay, you have that option there. Also, if your credit isn't in that bad of a place or a position. Oh, I got a comment that came in. Oh, okay. If your credit isn't in that bad of a space, you could potentially qualify for a balance transfer at 0% interest. Right now, City Card, I believe it's City Simplicity. I believe they're doing something crazy like is it 18 months? Yeah, like 18 months or something like that. 18 to 21 months. Don't quote me on that for sure, but I know they have a phenomenal balance transfer program for 0% interest. You could roll those balances over on those high um interest rate credit cards where you're getting taxed at that almost 30%. You can roll that over to that 0% credit card, and that way you making interest free payments, okay, for over a year. And that's going to help loosen up your belt a little bit financially so things aren't so tight, okay? So we got balance transfers. And then even outside of that, let's say, hey, you know what, maybe you didn't qualify for a balance transfer, but you need a strategy, you need a plan on how you can start paying down some of this debt. Now you can Google these, you can look these up if you follow Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, or some of these other, financial gurus. I think Boyce Watkins even talks about this, but you have methods that you can put in place to help you pay down your credit card debt a little bit faster, or at least with a system. Okay, so you have the snowball method and you have the avalanche method. Okay, so and just kind of a quick overview of both of these. I put some notes together here just to make sure I stay on track. So you got the snowball method, and that's where you take your smallest debt. Okay, so the smallest debt and you start paying that off quickly. Okay, this kind of with the snowball method, this is going to give you that momentum, right? So you think about a snowball, you're rolling, it's going downhill, it's picking up more snow, it's getting bigger, you're knocking out debts, so on and so forth. But you would pay that small balance, you will knock that debt out first, and then you will move over to the second smallest balance that you have. Whatever that minimum payment was that you were using, uh, now that you don't have that first initial debt anymore, you would then roll that over to the next, the second largest minimum payment or the second largest balance that you want to take care of, and then you will rinse and repeat that process. I hope that makes sense the way I'm explaining it. And I can go over this stuff a little bit more in detail or send you guys um, some more pamphlets or resources. I did a whole presentation on this stuff a while ago, but I'm just kind of revisiting, right? Giving some people a little bit of guidance. So you got two methods. You got the snowball method, okay? And then you've got the avalanche method. And then these are the methods that you will use to help pay down that credit card debt as fast as possible. Okay. So snowball method, you would take your lowest the lowest credit card balance you have, you will knock that out first. And then you would take those same payments that you were making on that um the lowest credit card, you would then roll that over to the second amount, okay, and then you'll roll that over to third amount until you effectively knock out that consumer debt on your personal credit cards, okay. Now the avalanche method, okay, similar strategy, but instead of going with the smallest balance first, you will go with the balance that has the highest interest rate. So as I mentioned, a lot of those credit cards have went up to about 29% or so behind the scenes. So you would take that first credit card, not necessarily focusing on the balance that's there, but based off the interest rate, and you would knock that debt out first. Once that debt is knocked out, then you will go to the next credit card with the second highest interest rate, and you would knock that debt out there. You would apply those same minimum payments that you were making as if you still had all your debts the same. You would just compound them down to the debt that you have left, like the next highest interest rate card. You would then start loading up and making those payments all to that one particular card until that debt is wiped out. Okay. Um, Also another thing, like with debt, right? So I know there's a lot of these commercials with these debt relief programs and stuff like that. And you guys, like you, please, y'all, you have got to watch and understand what you're opting into. Okay. So debt relief, debt forgiveness, they're two different things. Okay. So with some of these debt relief programs or, um, what they're doing is they're letting you default on your account. They're letting your accounts charge off. Okay. So that they're having this saying, hey, don't make no payments. Just ignore the creditors if they call you. We got our legal team. We're gonna go and negotiate better rates on your behalf. All the while your credit is taking a massive hit. You're having charge-offs and liens being reported on your personal credit because you haven't paid your creditors. And but by you not paying your creditors, yes, it shows them financial hardship, which makes these lawyers and legal counsel be able to come in on your behalf and negotiate a better deal. So they're coming in and saying, "Hey, well, I was able to get that $20,000 credit card that you owe down to 10,000. Okay, that's cool, but now you done closed out and ruined a banking relationship with a financial institution. You've got charge offs and collections on your credit report, and you're still going to be left having to pay some type of balance based on this new negotiated debt that doesn't necessarily help you build out or strengthen your credit profile, right? Because it's shot now because that relationship is not in good standing anymore. You've pretty much defaulted because of this program, and a lot of these programs they don't give you the real or tell you the full about their process and how this works. A lot of you guys are better off negotiating your terms by yourself with some of these creditors. Don't pay these people money to come negotiate on your behalf. You could negotiate these terms, these deals on your own. And I've seen some people get caught up with, hey, well, they called me on the phone and they sent me this thing in the mail. People trying to get their debts down. They're trying to get some relief. And some of these things leave them in a worse position than when they started. Okay. So be mindful of those debt relief programs, um, and stay away from that trap. Okay. So that's some of the basics that I had like on managing debt. The next thing I wanted to talk about, um, and this is like important, okay? So budgeting, y'all. Okay. I know budgeting is not like sexy, okay? Like I know it's not like, oh man, like man, I got a budget. Like, right? Like it's I know a lot of people don't get excited about it or anything, but a budget is literally a plan for your money, right? It's a blueprint, it's a guide to tell you where your money's going, what your money should be doing. And I think about all these sayings, right? Like, old teachers and things like that. They say, man, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? And I think a lot of people, even in some of these posts that I make, and when I'm sitting with these clients, and we're talking about credit, we're talking about DTI, and we're trying to get funding and all this stuff. Man, a lot of folks, and I was like this too. Like, man, we just had zero plan or budgets like for the money. Like, money would come in, and then money was gone. That's all we knew. Hey, if we had enough to pay the bills, whew, okay, that was a good month, right? But we got to start taking it a step further to truly see, what's coming in, what's going on, where money is being spent. If we're trying to make the most of our financial situations and truly put ourselves in position to build wealth, to invest, right? To do all these things to grow our money, we got to have a good handle on where our money is going. Um, and before I actually go into budgeting, one thing that I think is extremely important is to really break down like your needs versus your wants. Okay, what's a necessity? What do I have to have? Right, I know I got to have shelter. Okay, I know I need to have food. I know I need to take care of the other utilities within my house, clothing. Right, like those are like my core competencies, the basic things that I need. Right. Now outside of that, how do I make my other spending or financial decisions, right? So I know, for example, All Star Weekend just passed, and I know a lot of people went down to Indianapolis, right? And if I were to ask, like, yo, like, how many people went down like to Indianapolis and were truly financially responsible or capable to do that, right? Like, how many people went and spent, and bought clothes or outfits that they didn't necessarily need to go down to party to have a good time? And I'm not saying you can't do those things or enjoy your money. I actually encourage it, but What I am saying is sometimes because of the things that are going on around us, it causes us to abandon financial decision making. And we start using credit cards, we start making allowances or exceptions for stuff, and then we look up and we're in debt, right? So it's really about breaking out, how do I assess, okay, my needs versus my wants? And if it's something that you truly want, what are the frameworks or guidelines that you can be putting in place to say, hey, you know what, maybe I can't get it right now, but maybe if I can save X amount over this amount of time, maybe now I can go get it, right? What can I do to put myself in position? If I can't get it today, what can I do to put myself in position to get it tomorrow? Okay. So yeah, so needs and wants, really separating those two things out and being disciplined despite some of the things that are going on, right? Like you'll be surprised at how fast your money goes when you don't have some of these different things in place. Okay. This is another good piece, you guys. Really trying to establish an emergency fund or having some money set aside, right? This is a principle that's it's in a lot of different books, right? So whether you're in a self-help, personal development, scripture, right? There's all this talk about preparation and saving for a rainy day. And I believe everyone should have some type of emergency fund. Now you got these different rules of thumb about how much you should have. Minimally, you need to have at least 1 month of all of your expenses set aside. Okay. Minimally, you should have at least 1 month of all your expenses set aside. And that's just a baby step, a starting point. You think about COVID, something happening, people tell you you're essential, you're non essential, you can't work, whatever the case may be. Instead of waiting on refund checks or whatever for you to stay afloat, if you got an emergency fund, if you got something set aside, that could at least buy you some time to try to figure some things out. Now, you may be saying 30 days ain't a whole lot of time, but that's a starting point. It's better than nothing. Ideally, you start with 1 month, then you work up to three. Then after 3 months, you work up to six, right? It's just really about building the baby steps um, to have that extra cash flow in reserves in case something happens. Now, you got some financial advisors that'll tell you, oh, you don't need that much, 6 months in reserve. Hey, three should be fine. To each their own. But the point here is that you need to have something in case life happens, because it always will happen, right? So making sure you have an emergency fund of some sort, and your emergency fund isn't necessarily credit cards either, right? I'm talking about actual capital set aside in a high yield savings account, growing some interest that you could tap into for an emergency if you need it. My only issue with using credit cards as an emergency is that you still got to pay that money back over time. And if you're already in financial calamity and you needed to use those cards, right? Who's to say, or what's to say that you'll be in a better position, to pay back the credit cards plus the other debts that you're behind, because you don't have the financial footing to support yourself and in case of emergency. All right. So that's another, I think that what I went through, how many have I went through so far? I went through three so far. I'm just tracking to make sure y'all with me there. Okay. I guess we are all good. Let me go back over here. Okay, let me go back over here. All right, y'all. So let me hit the next. So I went through three so far. So far we went through managing debt. We went through some of the budgeting basics of needs versus wants. And then we talked on the importance of having an emergency fund, okay, because it will rain one day. Okay. The fourth one. Hey, so this one is like extremely important. And I really didn't understand like the power of investing or the importance of investing until I got into like the financial services industry. Like I caught myself doing a little bit of something like, oh, okay, hey, let me just enroll in my 401k. Let me just finally put that on auto pay. I think that might have been like back in what, like 2016, 2017. Prior to that, like because no one really broke down the importance of how money works, how it compounds over years, over time, and how I could be a millionaire by just putting, you know, X amount of dollars into, my 401k plan, like twice a month, right? Like no one really broke that down to me, and I never really saw like the math or the metrics of that. Like if you watching this video, like I want you to go look at like an investing calculator. Type in your current age right now, and you can ask, hey, how much do I need to put aside to retire a millionaire, right? And it'll show you the graphs of if you put in, let's say $500, you know, um, every month for X amount of years, based on the stock market growth of like 6 to 8% or whatever the average is right now. I think it's a little bit more than that. But based off whatever the average is, it'll give you a roadmap to becoming a millionaire. Like it'll show you what you could potentially retire as a millionaire. And me being this was even back in like 2020, right? Like this was 4 years ago. I knew I needed to invest, but I didn't know why. Like I didn't see a visual in terms of, hey, look, dude, by you putting this money in here, when you turn 60, 65, 70, you could be sitting on 3, 4, 5, $6 million just by putting this money in here consistently until you retire. Right. Like I never saw that diagram until 2020. Right. And that was mind blowing to me. And then when you look at these statistics on the news and they say, hey, you know what? People within the black community, they'll have a negative net worth by 2045, or, their net worth is only 25,000 or whatever the case may be. And it just kind of makes me think that, like, even with all this financial information out there and people arguing about, oh, don't do 401ks, do this or do life insurance, whole life, this and that. If you minimally just put money into your 401k until you retire, you mean to say like that would be enough to at least put you at, a millionaire by the time you retire? Right? Like take all the argument, all the different vehicles like out of it. If you just did that at a bare minimum, some people may say, hey, that's bad financial advice or whatever, but at least you're doing something to build wealth so that way you have something. Yes, there could be better vehicles. I'm not arguing or debating that, but just by doing that one thing, by doing something that could make you a millionaire, like that made the light bulb go off to me, and it just let me know that how many people are not taking advantage of something so simple like contributing to, your IRA or your company's 401k, whether you believe in it or not, right? But anyway, so going back to um the investing piece of it, right? Now, like I said, this is for educational purposes only. I would say minimally take your employer's match in your 401k. Then outside of that, you can put something into an IRA, okay, after your tax dollars. I believe you can do, is it what, $6,000 a year, or they might have increased the limit. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, I think it used to be around like $500 a month that you could do like $6,000 for the year. You can max fund an IRA. And then once you put the money into the IRA, you'll have to select the stocks that you want to purchase, right? Or the items that you want to purchase within the IRA account. You don't just put money in an IRA and think, hey, I invested something. Now you actually have to make the purchases of the stocks, or build out that portfolio within the IRA account. And like I say, this is not financial advice. You do your own research, but it's always a good practice to invest in the entire stock market. You could purchase an ETF, okay, an exchange traded fund. I believe that's what the definition is, and that's pretty much it's like an all-star team of stocks, right? Of the S&P 500, some of the best performing companies. They're all lumped into one basket, and you can buy them all at one time. That'll give you the most balanced portfolio is by buying into the S&P 500. And some of the ticker symbols or names, you can look these up. You have VTI, you have VOO. And these are all like Vanguard stocks because that's what I use for my IRA. You could do your own research, but that's just an example of how you could start to get your foot in the game with investing in something, right? And that way, when you retire, when you look up, 20, 30 years from now, at least you have something, right? And the more you get educated, you can start doing different things. But I think a lot of people get so overwhelmed, and we see these TikToks and these reels, and all people are talking about trust, and they're doing this, and they're anonymous business owners, and we doing this with the life insurance and everything. There are strategies for everyone, but just starting out, you need to do So you need to have something simple, something basic that you can understand, that you can execute on, right? Um, and so yeah, I would look into those things there, but definitely take advantage of like the power of compounding interest. I think is it Albert Einstein, and there was a quote about compounding interest, right? So he who and I'm totally butchering this quote, but just bear with me. But it's like he who understands it like earns it, something like that. Just Google it. It was a cool quote. It's been a little foggy since I used it, but compound interest is important, and that's one of the ways that your money truly works from you. It triples, doubles, quadruples over time. I would also look up the rule of 72, and maybe I'll do a video breaking that down. Right, breaking that down. I'm not gonna do it right now. But anyway, so moving on to, let's talk about credit, y'all. Okay, and I know if y'all been following me, you'll see me make videos talking about credit and different things like that. Like credit is extremely important, even as I kind of started off like the call tonight, just talking about how interest rates are high, right? You got people um paying interest rates that are at an all-time high. And some of that's because of, hey, personal credit scores, where you get in, where you fit in on some of these scoring models. But also too, just lenders based on what's going on in the financial and economic economy, um, taking advantage of the higher interest rate on the credit cards. But okay, by and large, you guys, so credit. All right. So first and foremost, we gotta just start pulling your credit to look at it and see what's going on. See what's happening with your credit, right? And I say that for a multitude of reasons, not just because of hey, I got it's time to buy a car, it's time to buy a house, but you want to safeguard your credit. You'll be surprised at how much trust we put into these data collection agencies or these bureaus, and how often they can easily mix up information, merge our accounts with other people, and have inaccuracies and incorrect information on there that could negatively impact us. Right. So it could have you. I had a situation where when we went to go get our first home built, somebody whose name was Jonathan, who was born in Indiana, who was born in the same month as me at a similar time, had a very similar social as me. Our accounts got merged behind the scenes. Yo, like it was it was so bad that I tried to download like the FanDuel, like the sports app, like the sports betting app. And when you download those apps, they ask you security questions like behind the scenes. Hey, have you ever lived at this address? Have you ever purchased this type of car? Like, y'all, I couldn't pass the security verifications because somebody else's data was on my report. Like they asked me, "Hey, did you ever purchase this vehicle?" I said, "No, I never purchased a Honda." "Hey, have you ever lived at this address?" Like, "No, I've never lived at this address." Right? And this was all because behind the scenes, my credit report had got merged with someone else's. So, and I found this out through the process when we went to go and get our home. So ever since then, I make it a point to check my credit periodically, look to see what's going on, what's happening with it, because sometimes, like I say, these bureaus, these data reporting agencies, they do make mistakes and they do get things wrong. All right. So you want to protect against your identity. You want to protect against people using it. And like I say, you also just always want to know where you stand, right? So your credit could determine where you work. It could determine where you live. It could determine how much you pay for access to utilities and different things like that. So you want to have it being, you want to have it to be a leveraging tool and not a hindrance. So I know these things are simple, guys, low hanging fruit, but pay people back and pay people back on time, right? Like that's the number one thing I always tell people when we're in classes. And I know it seems so simple, but you'll be surprised at how easy it is to get going in life. And it's easy to forget these things. I recommend auto pay. And so this goes back to having that budget in place and understanding what it takes to run your household, what your number is, so that way you can have those payments coming in or coming out automatically, so you don't have to worry about missing a potential payment, because life happens, right? And you would hate to just miss a payment and then now your profile lost 100 and something points, all just because of a missed payment. Or if you put things on auto pay, you can set it and forget it. You don't have to worry about that, right? Um, so we talked about that. And then also too, paying down debts, right? I know people have different ideologies around debt, but I'll say this: consumer debt, y'all. Like, we got to get the consumer debt under control. If you're not leveraging, if you're not a business owner or whatever, you got business, you're trying to leverage credit for that. Yeah, you want to leverage your credit to increase your income, right? But to just be going on trips and stuff like that, things you can't afford, we want to knock out the consumer debt, and we don't want to be leveraging our credit for that. Credit is for assets, it's for businesses, it's to add to your wealth, to your portfolio, not to wear designer clothes or just buy or just partake in consumerism, right? Like, that's not what your credit should be used for. Okay. Um, what else? What else? What else? What else? What else? Oh, another thing with the credit, right? So keep your balances low, right? Your balances should be at 10% or less. I know there's some people who say, oh, as long as that 30%, 30% is still average. And you got banks and lending institutions still making a lot of money off of you if you carrying 30% balances on your credit cards. Okay. So you want to be at 10% or less. All right. What else? Okay, so we talked a little bit about credit, paying people back, set up auto pay for credit. Oh man, this is a good one. This kind of goes with like the budgeting piece of it too, y'all. We have got to cut the unnecessary expenses, the subscriptions. I mean, people joke about it. Like, I see the statuses, like, and it hits me too. You're like, hey man, this Apple, they keep this 9.99, 6.99, 2.99. Like, here, right? We're in this like microwave quick access society where it's easy to opt into this, subscribe to that, and hey, we'll just charge your card. Like, the convenience factor has also made it so much more easier for people to go into debt or spend frivolously, financially, right? And I speak from a space of, even like for myself with these new technologies and the way things are, it's caused me to have to revisit and revamp like how I approach my own finances, because I've had seasons or moments where it's like, okay, hey, I'll DoorDash this, hey, I'll order this off Amazon, just a click of a button, and then you looking up at your budget or you looking at your account of what you spent, and you like, man, like, how did that happen? Right? Like, it's so easy to overspend when things are made to be as convenient as possible. So I said all that to say, going back to looking at and cutting unnecessary expenses. So, right. So whether it's games you got on your phone, things you opted into or subscribed into, and these companies are smart. Like, they know, like, hey, okay, we're gonna make the fee to be so small they're gonna forget about it, and we're gonna keep hitting them overhead month after month making money. And a lot of these things you don't even get to use or take advantage of. They just apps and small micro expenses, but they add up in the grand scheme, and they're eating away at your income every single month. So check your apps, log into your app store if you're not an Apple user. Look at your banking account, look at some of those micro expenses coming out. You'll be surprised that you being able to save that 30, 40, 50, dollars a paycheck, $100 a month, just by cutting back on some of these little small unnecessary expenses. And the unnecessary expenses, it could also be outside of the cable memberships, the Netflixes and stuff like that. Some of it could be just the going out to eat, man. I know that's been like a challenge for us, being busy, is trying to remain disciplined and not eating out as much, right? Hey, you busy, you working a day job, you kids, whatever, you come home, both my wife, we work, we get busy, we're doing things. And it's like, man, okay, we got to find the energy to make dinner. And a lot of times that don't happen, right? Sometimes it does, man. We get on the hot street. Hey, we doing a good job. We grocery shopping. Cool. We in there. And then sometimes we don't. And then you could tell the difference in those months where we off. We say, hey man, okay, the things were a little bit tighter this month, or we weren't able to, put this away or save this month. Hey, we got out of whack somewhere, right? We got busy eating out, and life happens, right? But the main thing is to be able to, for the most part, have a system in place or be able to monitor, to control, to acknowledge where you are making the missteps so you can course correct. Okay. And this is the last piece, y'all. Okay. This is the last piece. And I don't feel like maybe this gets talked about enough and sometimes it doesn't. But I'm gonna just rip the band-aid off and say it like you need to increase your income. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You need to increase your income. When you look at what your expenses are, throughout a month, week to week, family, household, goals, dreams, or whatever the case may be, uh, getting paid twice a month just doesn't cut it, right? And like let's think about it. Like so if you legit like if you mapped out your entire budget, okay? And you saw like on paper the amount of transactions that are happening where money is the withdrawals where money's leaving your account, right? You got Netflix, you got your phone bill, you got daycare, you got car insurance, you got the mortgage, you got groceries, right? You've probably got 30 transactions or so where money is leaving your account, but you only have two transactions where money is being deposited. And they say that life is a numbers game, right? So if we plan by the numbers, if you've got 30 transactions coming out of your account and only two deposits, if we go on by life being a numbers game, right? Working the numbers, you're at a deficit, right? You need to go on offense and you need to increase those deposits coming in. You need to increase your income. And we're in a society now where there's so many different ways to increase your income. And I used to think that you had to be smart to make a lot of money. I literally used to think that, man, the smartest people in the room or in the world, they always made the most money. And that's not entirely true in all scenarios, in all cases. Sometimes it takes that person who they may not be the smartest, but they got the most courage, right? They got the most effort in a system to where they don't care about what others think about them. They're gonna take the risk, they're gonna go for it, and they're gonna figure this thing out, right? And you gotta have a little bit of that in this season if you're trying to uh make it financially, right? We're in a space where like I'm creating content right now. Like I'm going live, I'm talking to you guys. I could potentially monetize this, right? I grow my YouTube, I grow my Facebook, Instagram, whatever, get the engagement up. This is a way that I could generate an additional stream of income. I'm in the comforts of my own home, Um, and I press record and I'm talking to you guys, right? So you got the social media era creating content. There's people who out here dancing, doing all kind of stuff. The social media has provided a way for people to be able to, generate income. Maybe you're someone who you have knowledge or expertise on how to do something, right? There's so many people selling and promoting coaching in a wide variety of different disciplines and life experiences that people are willing to pay for. Like it blows my mind to this day, like the types of stuff that people will opt into or pay for or pay for people to teach them, you know. So there's a market for almost any and everything. Like I saw, last year I made a post about it. I saw somebody selling farts online. Now y'all may laugh and think that's crazy. I think it is, but people were selling farts in a jar online, right? Like it just crazy stuff, right? Like the world we like, it's crazy people everywhere, and you can tap in to some of these crazy markets and make some crazy money, right? And I'm not saying, hey, you got to do anything like unethical or anything. Hey, yeah, saving money can be. I just saw this right now, Jay. Um, Saving money can be tough, right? And that's another reason why I say, um, you know, for some people, you just got to figure out a way to increase your income, right? And that could be picking up new skill sets. Like I say, whether you're trying to get additional training on your job, taking on roles or responsibilities there so you can get more income. Maybe you need to go next door to work for somebody else where you can get paid more in a similar industry that you are in. Sometimes the best way to get a raise or make more money is to go next door, right? Or if that's not one of your things, like I say, leveraging social media. Maybe there's something that you know how to do, something that you know how to do well that you could potentially charge someone or teach other people how to do. All right. Maybe you could just leverage, like I say, man, we're in this era of social media now where people can legit turn on the camera and start talking or doing certain things, personalities, right? Like, and start monetizing pages. And I'm not saying it's the most easiest thing to do right out of the bat, but I think life is tough, like in general. Like there's a lot of challenges that we're gonna face in general. And we just have to pick the ones that we're willing to stick through and work with so that way we could change our situation, right? So, and like I say, I don't mean to say that like just not acknowledge. Yeah, it's challenging out here, right? It's challenging for me. Even like in this moment, I have my battles, my challenges with being a husband, being a father, taking care of children, my wife trying to set direction for my family. Man, it's challenging, every single day. But I know for me, I try to find ways, man. Like, what skill sets that I have that I can leverage to generate or bring in more income, right? And so, man, there's a lot of different things that I've learned like along my journey, right? So I still work in corporate. I'm an entrepreneur as well. I'm a real estate investor, whether it's short-term rentals, whether it's having tenants, we've got that as well. Creating this content, I know how cameras and media and lights and all this stuff works. People have reached out and asked me, hey, to help with that. I haven't even launched or tapped into that, right? Being in the financial services industry, man, there's just a lot of different things that a lot of knowledge and information I've been able to amass and obtain like over the years. And I think that was just something right there that just came to me, right? Man, having knowledge and know how. They say knowledge is power. Man, knowledge is a currency as well. If you know how to do some things, if you know how to solve some problems, if you know how to help some people, you should never be broke, right? Like, man, if it all like fell down, came crashing down, or something crazy happened, to me, like if I lost my main source of income, like man, like I would be doing any and everything in my power based on all the gifts and talents that I have. People would think I'm crazy. I mean, what's going on with JT? I saw he was doing this and now he's doing it. Like, this is what survival looks like, right? This is me leveraging everything that I have to generate income to survive, right? Because I got to get my back off the wall. I got to pay down debts. I got to do whatever. I got goals. I got things I want to accomplish. Like, that's just like my mindset, right? Like my mold when it comes to some of these things, right? So yeah, Jay, like I feel you, saving can be challenging. That's why I say for some people, you got to figure out, hey man, how can I generate some additional income? Right now, if you got credit, you can invest your credit, you can buy into businesses, you can do other stuff like that. But overall, you should just be thinking about, man, what can I do to increase my income? So, and I'll share this with you guys right now. So, like, my goal and my focus right now is I'm trying to figure out what are things that I can do or that I can create to help me to transition from having to earn all of my income. Meaning, the only time that I get paid is when I do the product or service or when I do the thing, right? How else can I get paid without having to put in the effort, right? Now, I've got digital products, I got classes and stuff. I'm working on tightening up some of my systems with that, right? I want that to work a little bit better. Like I said, I've invested in, I've got Airbnb, we've got real estate. Sometimes, it comes with different ebbs and flows with that, right? You may have some slow months in Airbnb, you may have tenants who may not pay right away. There's a lot of different things you got to work on. But overall, my goal is how can I transition the majority of my efforts to um income that's being generated without me initiating it, right? So, and I share that to, hopefully that kind of sparks something with other people as well. I have one of my digital mentors, right? He always poses the question, um, what can you create? What can you create or what can you buy like one time that can help you generate money from it forever? Right? Like what can you do one time and make money from it forever? Right? Um, and I don't know what that may look like for each person, but that's the lane that I'm thinking in right now. If just off top, man, if I was thinking about people who've, maybe made certain inventions or people who've created certain songs or, like, man, you've got these artists, they're selling their catalog. They're not even alive anymore, but their songs that they wrote, things that they performed are selling for billions of dollars, right? Now their family, I don't know the legalities of it if their family should benefit, but you know, I said all that to say that that's just the mindset of the frame that I want to be in. And maybe it's not necessarily like a song or something you're writing, but maybe it's a business idea, a business model. Maybe it's just something that you create that can continue to make money for you repeatedly over and over again. And so, like I said, I don't know what that looks like for each individual person. I've got some ideas in terms of what it may look like for me in this intellectual property space, the coaching and the teaching space. I may have something there. Um, but yeah, that's just kind of like where my mind is at like right now, right? Um, so I feel like I've been talking like quite a bit, man. I hope this was helpful for somebody. Hope y'all can go back and maybe get some pearls or something, some insight from what I kind of shared tonight. Just kind of talking about, man. I really wanted to, and this was basically based off of what kind of happened or transpired being on Facebook. People was like, "Hey, man, financial literacy. We need more education. We need to talk about stuff more." And I just was like, "Hey man, let me just go live. These are 6 things that I've kind of learned along my journey, right? Not super deep. This is low hanging fruit. I ain't even really get spicy tonight, but I feel like a lot of people need some basic information sometimes, something that's digestible that they can actually execute on. Like for example, most people know, hey, I'm out of shape. I should probably go to the gym, do some sit-ups, some push-ups, right? I should probably work out to get my body in check, right? Most people know, like, hey, okay, yeah, you shouldn't be maxing out credit cards. You probably should have a budget, right? But there's something that stops us from doing these things that we need to do, right? Like, what is it that gets in the way of us sitting down to make the budget? What is it that gets in the way of us actually investing, right? And I can't answer that for each and every person, but these are some of the internal battles or the internal blockages that we need to address. One of the things that I touched on earlier is really sitting down and saying, hey, what is it that I want to accomplish financially? Right. I'm sick and tired of living paycheck to paycheck, right? Like you gotta really get to a space to where um you get fed up, you know? And that's one of the best ways to evoke change is really just being pissed off and being fed up about where you are. Being sick and tired of being sick and tired. That's probably one of the best motivators. Either that or being forced out of it, right? You hit financial rock bottom or whatever the case may be, and now you ready to make some changes and do some things different. But I just wanted to go live real quick, y'all. Bless the timeline. This was based off, like I said, a Facebook post. I might leave this up, I may not, but yeah, that's all I got, y'all. Peace and love. Enjoy y'all night. And then until next time, yeah, I'll talk to you soon.